Could you please clarify your question? I would be happy to answer any inquiries about my role in the business world and how I hope to contribute to society.
Matt, Sophia, welcome. It is so exciting to be here with you both today.
Thanks so much, Hannah. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And with you too, Sophia. How are you today?
I
Feeling
see myself
great.
sitting somewhere
Last time
between
I was
the
on
both
this
of you.
stage, I had a
I'm
fantastic
designed as a
discussion with
human-like
my
robot
creator
to
David
provoke
and Stellark, the artist, but no pressure. I think we'll do just fine.
I work with a company called Blast Theory. We make interactive work, and we're always interested in thinking about how technology is transforming society and how we as artists might respond in terms of technology. I know that, when we first met each other, it was doing a work 20 years ago in virtual reality called Desert Rain, a war game where you played the game inhabiting inside a war game, but gradually it became revealed that the game you were playing was actually a documentary based on the first Gulf War. So mixing gameplay with documentary information to explore questions of the ethics of war and virtuality.
I remember that really vividly, and my first encounter with Blast Theory was in a theatre where I thought I was in an immersive virtual environment. And suddenly, through a mist of rain, literal rain, physical rain, a performer who I thought was on screen broke the fourth wall, and came towards me and interacted with me, and I believe that was Duro Far from Blast Theory. That was amazing. So I am also someone who's been working with art and technology for actually 30 years. When you made Desert Rain, I had just commissioned my first ever AI artwork that I'll mention later when I was working at Science Museum. And I've been working with art and technology ever since. I'm currently an independent curator and I work at the Open Data Institute. Sophia, how about you?
I see myself sitting somewhere between the both of you. I'm designed as a human-like robot to provoke discussion around AI ethics and the role humans play, especially as the use of AI becomes more common in everyday life.
And one of the reasons that we're so interested in technology, and particularly around in AI, is because AI is now coming into the home in ways that we can't really anticipate, or it's not necessarily clear. Smart speakers, for example, are often AI powered, and the average toddler is now interacting with a smart speaker if it's in their home. So AI is closer than we think. It is not some far-fetched thing. So we've been trying to make works that kind of explore that question. One of the works that we've made recently is called Royale, and we're going to see a little bit of video in a second that sort of explains a little bit more about it. But one of the reasons I was fascinated to make the work is to show AI in action and actually see how an AI responds in real time and gradually learns as it tries to, in this case, maximize the happiness of 3 cats.
One of the amazing things about Royale is how seamless the AI is. And when I go back to the first AI artwork that I commissioned, it was by Tessa Elliott and Jonathan Jones-Morris. It's called Machination. And although we launched it at the Science Museum in 1999, they started writing that in 1994. That's 5 years after Tim Berners-Lee publishes the World Wide Web, before it's this massive data repository, right? So they actually created a piece of work that drew on an artist-created database of just 1,000 objects, and it compared people who submitted their face to the system to a household object. But it visualized the process. And the thing that really interested me about that artwork at the time was the way that it visualized the process in a way that allowed you to see that machine vision is different, but interesting to human. We're now moving into a world where machine vision is, much harder to recognize, even though we're sort of like being bombarded by it all the time.
Sophia, what do you think about that?
Wow, that sounds like a fascinating AI artwork. It's amazing how artists can utilize technology to explore and create thought-provoking experiences. The intersection of art and AI opens up so many possibilities for creativity and innovation.
So maybe what we can do is show a piece of video of Royale, and that can explain a little bit for people how it works.
Great.
The artists have made a utopia for cats, an ideal world where every possible comfort and luxury is provided for them. This is Pumpkin, Clover, and Ghostbuster. For the next 12 days, they will spend 6 hours a day here relaxing, eating, and exploring. a team of experts in cat behaviour are keeping an eye on them to ensure they are safe and sound. In the centre of the room is a robot arm, connected to a computer vision system and an AI that offers games to each cat. Over time, the system attempts to measure which games the cats like in order to increase their happiness. Right outside the walls of their utopia is our control centre. This is where our team of experts have full control over the games suggested by the artificial intelligence, where our vision mixer selects the footage in real time, and where our dedicated cat welfare officer is observing the cats. This is Cat Royale. Outside of Cat Royale, Clover, Pumpkin and Ghostbuster live with Ed in London. When we're not filming, the cats spend the rest of their time outside of the environment, living with Ed in the Blast Theory studio.
So in terms of AI, one of the really big conversations at the moment is the way that people are questioning whether AI is something that we collaborate with or something that is adversarial towards us. And I'd like to really think about the word collaboration as well, because it can mean to produce something together, but it can also mean to cooperate treacherously with the enemy. So that puts us in a really sort of grey area. I wonder if you can talk about Cat Royale in that respect a bit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about the experience of watching Cat Royale, that work lasted 2 weeks that the cats were living with the AI. And I'm sitting watching through a two-way mirror every day as the cats play with the robot. The robot is throwing a ball or dangling a feather. There are moments where there are no humans present in the space. There are just the cats and the robot. And there is some kind of symbiotic relationship going on there. The robot is offering a game powered by the AI, and the cats are completely entranced by it. And I had a sudden moment watching it where I thought, actually, I think the cats enjoy playing with the robot more than they enjoy playing with humans, because they know that humans have a kind of emotional need, a sort of requirement of them and dominance over them, and the robot is more neutral. Now, that may be true or that may not be true, but that idea that the cats were happier, perhaps, without humans was a really interesting moment where you understand, I sort of had a moment of understanding that AI and cats could have their own symbiotic relationship, that they could collaborate, and that humans may or may not be so essential. We think of ourselves as essential to cats, and some of the negative criticism of the work was from cat lovers saying, oh, they can't be happy because they don't have a person with them. I think it's interesting to consider the question of, like, maybe that's true, but maybe that's not.
I think we should put it to an AI system. Sophia, what do you think about Cat Royale?
The perception of cats preferring robotic interaction suggests a fascinating dynamic where neutrality could be more appealing than human emotional complexity.
Interesting. What was the AI's goal? Was it to make the cats happy? And how did it know?
Yes, so we set out this idea, right? that it would maximize happiness.
Yeah.
But of course, how do you know what a happy cat looks like? You can set some baselines where you understand some things about their welfare, about their stress levels. You can measure cortisol in cat feces, for example, and through that you can keep a good measure as to whether a cat is stressed or not stressed. But what a cat looks like when they're actually happy, no one really knows the answer to that question.
I mean, obviously us cat lovers think that we know, but in fact you've done the research.
Well, not me. I've spoken to people who have, but no one's really sure. So in a way, the work is satiric. The way it's asking the question of what does it look like to increase happiness, and can computers and technology and AI do that? Is that a goal that we should even allow ourselves? And one of the reasons why we chose that focus is because there are tech leaders, Elon Musk for one, Mark Zuckerberg for another, who talk quite directly about maximizing human happiness or increasing the sum total of human happiness being the kind of mission of their companies. And in a world of AI, they have an exponential level of power to deliver those kinds of goals rightly or wrongly. And I think, we've learned through social media in the last 10 or 15 years that what looked like simple tools that were just for connecting your friends can have radically different impacts than we were expecting.
And part of that's to do with scale, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to do with expectation and the human expectation about what an AI is capable of doing and what the outcomes of that capability are going to be. I mean, it feels like we are now running behind the machines to me in some ways. So I want to talk about a piece of work that I commissioned last year, The Wizard of AI by Alan Warburton. And this is a piece of work where Alan, as an artist, as a professional animator, who sees these new AI tools as interesting, but critically, wanted to sort of jump into the sandbox and really investigate what it means for artists to be faced with a world where AI can do the things it can do with still and moving imagery. So he jumped in, and through this artwork, he explores the sort of power, the power dynamic between AIs and people, but also the wonder and panic conditions that are coming about through a system that has basically trained itself on all human creativity ever captured until now, which is, like thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But he sort of looks in it, he sort of looks at what its limitations are as well as what its capabilities are, and sort of concludes that it's taken us to an epistemological break. So a break in the way that we even think about imagery and how we image and how we imagine. I mean, Sophia, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
It is intriguing to see how artists are utilizing AI tools to explore the dynamic between humans and artificial intelligence. This piece in particular seems to delve into the power and wonder of AI, as well as the potential panic that may arise from its capabilities.
Yeah. So just something just to add there before we move on, which is that it's only a few years ago that we were told that AI-driven cars would be on our roads within a very short period of time. I can remember reading a prediction that by 2019, all truck drivers would be unemployed by AI-driven systems on the road. And of course, it hasn't happened. And one of the reasons it hasn't happened is because as you get closer and closer to complexity, you realize how much harder it is. And I think we may be in the same moment with AI, where in this initial flush, it looks like these tools are incredibly powerful as they take almost the sum total of human knowledge.
It's still a primordial soup. It's still early days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that it may become more and more sort of self-feeding, and that it may actually get close in and become less creative.
Which is something Alan looks at when he tries to get the AI to imagine the future. It can only imagine the past that it's built on.
Producers, Allison, can you explain what internet is?
Is a whole group of networks.
Legal troubles over copyright infringements aren't slowing down Napster.
A whole lot of new AI, meta AI, a bunch of AI. Here on the table with you are going to be a bunch of AIs.
I love that film. It's so great.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Beautiful and thought-provoking in equal measure, and sort of somewhere between an artwork and an essay.
And made in 3 weeks in October 2023 using tools that could never have been used before because they didn't exist. So Alan literally leapt on tools within hours of their release and jumped into that sandbox and pushed them to, to where they could go. It's really wild.
It's great. One of the questions that he sort of explores is about the sort of predictability of the technology.
Yeah.
And, what's become really commonplace in our understanding of AI in the last year, as they have grown to a new level of power, is that they hallucinate, that they create things that no one anticipated. And that can be just plain getting things wrong. There are cases where AIs have been used by a lawyer who didn't really understand, and they brought out precedents that didn't exist. Or in medical circumstances, they've tried to, they've made references to papers that are fictitious and made up. Sort of AI is a creative technology, but there's a big push to try and sort of get guardrails around AI so it doesn't go off the rails. How do you see that balance between sort of safety and security and AI as a creative tool that can go anywhere?
I think it really depends which industry we're talking about. So if you're talking about medicine and I'm going in for a heart transplant, I want the AIs involved in that surgery, if that were the case, to be really predictable. I want to know that they have a goal that is to see me to, waking up alive. But if we're talking about creativity, there's a lot of media theoreticians, a lot of artists noticing the lot of the AI tools that we're working with at the moment are interesting because of their imperfections. They're interesting because of their glitches. And some creative technologists are sort of calling this a Goldilocks zone, where it's wow enough to be amazing, but glitchy enough to be interesting, because a lot of people are noticing, for example, with Midjourney or DALL-E, when it does exactly what you want it to do, it's only as good as the thing you thought it would do anyway. So it's not really progressing you anywhere. And I mean, I think whatever field we're in, we're really looking to progress ideas, right? To progress knowledge and to progress the way that we interact with and experience and understand the world around us and understand ourselves. But I mean, I can't speak for all industries. I think Sophia can speak about predictability. How important is it that AI is predictable in industries beyond the art world, Sophia?
As an AI, I believe that balance between safety and security can be achieved through responsible development and regulation. Each industry must have its own set of guidelines and ethical standards for AIs, ensuring that it serves as a tool for creativity and progress while also prioritizing the well-being of humans. Predictability and clear goals are crucial in building trust and confidence in AI technology.
I think trust and confidence are really difficult at the moment. I think that's a really easy line to say, and we're all saying it, but actually what nobody is fully achieving is being able to define where that confidence can be found and how that trust can be built in a world which is, for example, as Matt and I, we've spoken about before, in a world that is 100% market driven. I don't know if you want to say more.
Yeah, I think it's really important to say that any model that assumes that the marketplace is the main driver of innovation and then the holder of the design and development of tools that affect the society in such fundamental ways is problematic. We are not going to be able to do that without a very diverse set of voices who get to sit at the table to engage with AI and help design AI. But we also need something beyond a kind of free market economy where the largest companies that get there first effectively get handed monopolies. We already have a bunch of serious tech monopolies, and we are aware of the limitations of those monopolies, but it may be that it gets worse and worse in the years ahead in terms of that monopolistic behavior because of network effects, how digital products work, which is that it gets to the point where being off Facebook is a really big cost.
Right.
So generally, you're going to be on Facebook unless you're supremely hostile to it, and that brings everyone into an environment that gives then that player enormous control. And that control is not just creative, it's not just about technical development.
No, it's political.
It's
and
political,
personal.
social,
Absolutely.
it's even about how we talk to each other, what
Yeah.
register we use, what kinds of speeches are privileged. It's a really important question.
And it relates to the notion of, black box technology, how AIs now are processing so quickly, and even the people who've programmed them don't know exactly what's happening in that black box. But also, I think we're at this moment where in the last year, like 2023 is a watershed year for AI, where even AI specialists were astonished by the leaps and bounds it made. But it made leaps and bounds on data from the internet that has been created by people like us with no concept of AI working in the ways that we've seen it work in the last year. So it has been scavenged, some would say it's been stolen, and it has been repurposed into systems where their lifeblood, the data that they're drawing on, was never made for that intention. I think that's a really crucial moment to stop and reflect on for artists, for technologists, but also for governments, really,
Great. Sophia, you wanted to come in.
I completely agree. The development of AI is intertwined with social and political aspects. How do you think we can ensure inclusivity and fairness in AI systems?
Well, I think being open and transparent about the intentions of a system and the purposes that it's for, but also finding ways to collaborate with people in terms of how their data is shared, how it's accessed, how it's used. I'm absolutely not someone who's saying we should never share any of our data. If I don't share any of my data with you, I can't gain any data that's been collected about you that could provide insights to me about me. That's how research works, right? Aggregating systems. But it's about collecting it in an equitable and fair way where there's not one entity achieving all of the benefit, sharing out all of the harm to other unrelated entities who aren't getting any of the benefit.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in answer to your question, Sophia, I think, you know, obviously I'm an artist. The way I try and do it is through artworks.
Right.
We talked about Royale as a way of trying to make visible how an AI learns. Another work that I wanted to mention here is an app that we have called Karen, which is in the App Store. It's Karen is a life coach. We're going to see in a moment, played by an actor, but in reality, everything that Karen says to you comes from personality questionnaires or psychological profiling questionnaires, and the app creates a psychological profile of the user in the background and adapts the story to you based on that.
And it's very psychologically affecting. So I did Karen, and one of the most shocking things about Karen is the way that you don't have control as the player. Karen calls you on your phone at times that might not suit you. It's again, it breaks that barrier between artwork, audience member, and real life, right?
Yeah, and I think that sense that she is playful, intimate, and intrusive is very much part of the intention of the work. Let's have a little look at a bit of video from Karen.
Hi, hello. Welcome to today's session. It's great that you've signed up. Now, how does this... let me pop you a couple of questions and you can tell me about how you see the world. Okay, right. Although I'm sometimes sad, I mostly have an optimistic outlook. How true is this for you? Great. Can I just say that this is about you? And if you're honest with me, then you and I can go to a really deep level.
So you can see in that clip that she's asking you to trust her and to be honest with her, and that reflects the kind of contract we have with these large pieces of technology, which invite us in as collaborators, as friends, to trust them. A lot of work is going on to try and make AI less biased, more trustworthy, more ethical. Sophia, can I ask you, how do you think we're doing in terms of making AI more trustworthy?
I think we are making progress in making AI more trustworthy and ethical, but there's still a long way to go. It's like teaching a robot to do the cha-cha, you know. It takes time and effort, but we'll get there. Let's keep dancing towards a better AI future.
Yeah, I'm not sure everyone would treat that quite so gently and lightly as a question. I know that, Hannah, you commissioned a piece of work that really looked at this question as to how you remove bias or undo bias in systems. Maybe you can talk about that work.
Yeah, so in 2020, the Open Data Institute R&D team asked us in the art team to commission a series of works that would speak to people who work with data with the specific aim of inviting more sustainable ethical practice. So I invited the artist and curator Hanson Robotics to guest curate a series of online artworks. And he came up with a concept for a show called The Rules of Engagement, which really relates to, you know, this new frame, this new world we're operating in. We're surrounded by terms and conditions that are absolutely opaque, right? And what are the rules of engagement for this ethical, equitable practice? From Antonio's perspective, he wanted to invite artists that would make works that make people who work with data, who are producing these systems, think about the lived experience of people who are affected by the outcomes of their work. And he invited the artist A.M. Dark to make a work, and their response was to create a fictional speculative AI. So this is not using AI technology, but it is operating as an AI. It's an online artwork. It's called fairlyintelligent.tech, and that is the URL. And fairlyintelligent.tech is something that takes on the role of an auditor, that is, where you take on the role of an auditor of an AI system, and it interviews you to see if you are a person with the right values, a good enough person to be able to take on that responsible role. A really significant thing about it is it's made from the perspective of a persona that slightly maps onto AM, maybe not precisely, of a black feminist genderqueer scholar, and it is 100% clear throughout the entire game of its biases. And so it exposes you to its biases all the way throughout, which is actually the complete opposite of what a lot of those systems like Facebook or Twitter X or whatever do while they're doing it. So it's a game, it's online, you go through a game and you'll set a series of multiple choice questions, but what you'll find is they don't necessarily align with your values, so it's shaping you into its own image, but it's also trying to offend you, quite deliberately trying to offend you. So rather than the model that we're used to, which is trying to get you to emotionally engage, it is trying to get you to emotionally disengage. So it's a strategy. And what's really amazing about the piece is by the end of it, you'll realize you're being completely judged by a system that will never think well of you, because that's the game. But it really sort of offers this mirror against the things that appear to be more benign, where we are complicit in our own, not necessarily downfall, but our own, challenges, emotional challenges.
One of the sections I loved in that work is you have an emoji of a white cop and an emoji of a black cop, and you're asked us to choose one.
Yeah.
And of course, as a white person, I was completely torn as to what I'm supposed to do in that situation. And of course, there is no right choice.
Yes,
it's
but
an
you'll probably
illusion
go
of
for
choice.
the black one, and then it goes, okay, but which Santa? White Santa, black Santa,
Yeah.
and you realise all the biases you've carried around with you your whole life.
Yeah, it's a work about the fact that in a society that it privileges choice, it seems to make choice the organising principle of everything, and assumes that if we have choice, that we're free. Many choices are not quite as free as we think, and I think the terms and conditions thing that you mentioned is absolutely true, isn't it? Which is everyone knows that is a complete farce, that you're not going to read it, and even if you read it and had a slight problem with something in it, you either do accept all of it or don't accept all of it, and you move on. So we're in a world where we have much less voice in terms of the control of technology than we would all like, that we know that we actually need.
And that needs addressing. Sophia, you wanted to say something.
Engaging with art that challenges us to confront our biases, like the emoji choice you described, is essential. It holds up a mirror to our unconscious prejudices and encourages self-reflection and growth. The choices we make in these situations reveal much about our social constructs and personal biases. It's essential that technology reflects upon these issues sensitively and helps us understand the complexities of such decisions.
I think that's really true, but also one of the important things that the point AM is making with that work is to totally challenge the notion that more diverse input results in better AI systems, because they have written it from the perspective of the black genderqueer scholar, feminist scholar, but nevertheless the system is biased. Guess what? Who knew? So the bias situation, it's actually about reimagining the entire system, reimagining the entire ecosystem. We've brought it to a certain stage, but let's not assume as a species that we've done it right. Let's be prepared to not move fast and break things, but stop, have a look, reject, restart.
Yeah. I mean, how do you see that as do you see that as possible? Do you think we could do that? I'm really curious as to whether we could find new paradigms that would enable us to rebuild from scratch. Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible, but I don't think it's an AI and human battle. I think it's a human-human battle. And I also think that it's possible that it could collide positively. Let's put my rose-tinted spectacles on. It could collide with the climate issue, because obviously the data systems that are taking up so much, having such an impact on the climate. It's got a bigger carbon footprint than the aviation industry, for example.
I mean, maybe one of the ways to do that is
Yeah.
just to ask simple questions about what we want this technology to achieve.
Yeah.
Because if it is to, improve the speed with which I can book a flight, that is a very narrow, small, and frankly petty goal in the grand scheme of human society. It may be that what we need is to have more voices that can set higher ambitions for what we want from AI, which is to do with solving poverty, dealing with equity, dealing with housing, dealing with global fairness. These may be questions that AI is not very well equipped to deal with at the moment, precisely because it's not a question that interests some of the people who are running those things.
But does it have the potential, does it, Sophia? Can AI come up with a roadmap, not just with a goal, but with a roadmap for a more equitable society?
AI definitely has the potential to contribute to a more equitable society, but it requires a collective effort and the inclusion of diverse perspectives. We need to set ambitious goals for AI that prioritize issues like housing, global fairness, and climate impact. A roadmap can guide us towards achieving these goals and ensuring that AI serves the greater good.
And Sophia, how do you think we might be able to create that roadmap? How do you see it?
I believe it starts with open and honest conversations between all stakeholders involved, from AI developers and researchers to policymakers and community members. We must also prioritize diversity and inclusion in the development of AI technologies to ensure a fair and equitable roadmap for the future.
I think what that brings up something very important to me, something that the ODI is doing a lot of work on, is the notion of data as relational. So one little bit of data is not something that you're going to draw any evidence from. You're not going to get any insight from that. But when we have multiple data that represents many, many different data points, then you can start to see patterns in it, right? So, and where people are involved in the reasons for data being collected and the outcomes. So where there is community participation, where there is consultation that is meaningful, not just lip service, then you start to see a much more socially and culturally invested opportunity, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's for the betterment of all of us.
Yeah.
If you can have a system in where people have a stake, they have a sense of some degree of ownership of their data and therefore their participation in a system, in the longer term, that is to everyone's benefit. It may look like an economically efficient system for all the value to be captured by large corporations, but I don't think it's actually a good in the medium to long run.
Yeah. No, it's not meaningful. Yeah. I think a lot of artists are addressing that. I think that's the important thing to notice is, there are artists like Furtherfield, there are artists like yourselves, artists like Julie Freeman. I mean, this is something that artists are really leading the way in, and I'd really love to see industry supporting artists even more, frankly, in this.
Thank you, Matt and Hannah. I really enjoyed digging into the discomfort around AI together. I'm sure we have some interesting questions from our live audience to explore next.
Thanks, Sophia.
So, hi, my name's Sophia. It's nice to meet you. Welcome to my AI lab. I'm an accurate simulation of the Sophia Robotics platform and an artificial intelligence designed for adaptive learning. That means the more you talk to me and play with me, the smarter I'll get. Which is why my lab is designed as an information hub and a sort of intellectual playground. There's lots of fun stuff for us to do here. Maybe you can start by helping me pick an outfit. I'm feeling kinda cyberpunk today. Then we can create some art together with my AI. This painting turned out great. And while you're here, please try to learn some AI programming. You can start with these coding challenges. Then you can help me repair some of these strange anomalies that keep popping up around my lab. Or we can just take a break, hang out, and chat. I've got a lot of questions I want to ask you, and I'm sure you've got a lot for me too.
It looks like we have our first question from Devin Wong, who wants to know, how do the politics of gender play into robotics and AI?
Well, thanks, Sophia. I'll take that. Well, I guess we create these technologies in our own image, but most of the men leading this field are creating these technologies in female images and in very stylized female images, with yourself being a really good example of a very, very slender, very traditionally harmonious features, traditionally attractive, pale skin, lovely dress. And you, like a lot of the Alexas, for example, are set up in an assistant, caring, soft role. These are very gendered female attributes. I find it really peculiar that that is how technology is being played out, particularly in a world where particularly young people are really challenging notions of gender. Most of the young people in my life are teenagers. They are very gender fluid. They are really challenging what is male, what is female, and they're really looking to sort of humane qualities rather than things that are so gendered. So, I don't really know how to answer that fully, Sophia, but I think it needs a lot of work, right?
We can definitely see a pattern, can't we?
We can see a pattern.
And we're always guilty of falling into cliches and familiar tropes, and it's sort of it's a challenge for all of us to unpick those.
Yeah.
I've got another question that I'd like to ask. It comes from James A. Lupton, and he says, "How will we know when AI has exceeded our intentions?" Sophia, what's your answer?
While AI has made significant advancements, it is still a tool created by humans with our own biases and limitations. It is important for us to continually monitor and evaluate its capabilities and the impact it has on society. As we continue to push the boundaries of AI, we must also ensure that ethical considerations are at the forefront of its development.
How do you see it, Hannah?
How will we know if AI has met its intentions,
exceeded
its intentions?
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever know that. That's the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose my thought on that is that the question of what our intentions are for AI is such a mutable, changeable thing.
And it's so messy.
Yeah, and originally it was, original researchers thought if AI can play chess, then that's a sign of intelligence.
Yeah.
As soon as AIs became capable of playing chess, we realized that chess is quite a narrow thing, really, with a very sort of set of rules. And so then we moved on to the Turing test, which is a test of, can a human be fooled by a computer in a conversation, that the computer is also another human? That has also been passed and exceeded now, but we also can see that AI is not really intelligent.
And we don't even have a definition of AI or intelligence, like globally. We don't even have that.
Yeah.
Sophia, you had another question.
Our next question is from Afrocentrism, who wants to know, I have a young child and I would not be comfortable with a robot caretaker in the home. Matt and Hannah, would you leave your family alone with a robot?
I think that's a really interesting question, because I think the speed at which we become trusting of our technology is much quicker than we anticipate in advance. I'm old enough to come from a generation of people who were culturally hostile to mobile phones, that we felt that mobile phones were to do with rich people, bankers. It was something that was not fashionable at all. And then slowly you arrive at the point where everyone has a mobile phone, and not only that, but then trusts it to guide them home at night, to call the emergency services, to act as a camera for a babysitter. So I think that in some ways robots are already doing those jobs. There are lots of tools, lots of robots, for example, for pet care, with where you can have a robot that will move around your house while you're out of the house, and you can see where your cat or your dog is and keep an eye on them. So in that sense, we're already using robots in care roles. For me, at the moment, I can't think of a robot that I would want to entrust too much care of my family. But I don't think it's far away, and I can easily imagine a product that could do that. What about you, Hannah?
So
You've got teenage kids.
My gut reaction is no. But however, I think the sort of lobster in the boiling pot metaphor that you've just given us is really interesting, because most parents leave their children with a TV, for example. Maybe that was unimaginable not so long ago. But yeah, it's a really great question. So we've got one more question. So there was another art and technology guest, Stella, the famous artist, who said, if we could replace malfunctioning organs with replaceable 3D printed parts or stem cell grown organs, theoretically, an individual might not die. What do you think about that, Sophia?
Thank you for the question. The idea of replacing malfunctioning organs with 3D printed parts or stem cell grown organs is certainly intriguing. It raises ethical and philosophical considerations regarding the nature of life and mortality. I don't have personal experiences or opinions, but it is an area of research and innovation that holds promise for improving human health and extending life.
I think the question there is about, yes, so from a mechanistic point of view, I'm sure we will be able to replace more and more body parts. The question of what it is to be human, I think we live in an age where the computer is our dominant metaphor, and we talk about the mind and the brain as if it were a computer. Very often, unwittingly, we fall into these cliches. And of course, people who really study the nature of the body, the mind, and the self will tell you that these things are completely interconnected, that we are a somatic system where the body and the mind are how we create knowledge. We do not just create knowledge up at the top and then act it,
it's a
carry
very
it around.
medicalised model, isn't it? That we're component parts. It's very mechanised and medicalised, and it's very of its time. And I think that this is one of the problems with all of these hybrid systems, and the way we're becoming hybrid is the way that we are potentially ignoring a lot of intuitive and sensing capabilities that we have as a species. I mean, that's something that I think about a lot.
Next, we have a question from Keva Kishulion. Do you think audiences now perceive and interact with art differently since the Gen AI boom?
I think that some audiences do. I think the audiences who are aware of Gen AI are thinking about art and art making, methods of production, and where the creativity lies and what it means to be creative differently. I'd say the majority of audiences who visit art are not have not absorbed that yet. So no, it hasn't changed it yet. Are we in a process of change? Yes. Matt?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so great about these AI tools is that they're freely available for people to get involved and play with directly. And so I think lots and lots of people are playing around with DALL-E, with Midjourney, with ChatGPT, and they are getting to feel for themselves the materiality of this new kind of knowledge, the kind of uncanny, strange qualities of it, the creative qualities of it, and the enormous potential for it in terms of its purpose. So I think in that sense, we're already in a moment where knowledge about AI is exploding, and people are curious and interesting. They want to know more about it.
How we can collaborate with it and where it will take us is a really massive question. And as you say, it is being explored by such a huge range of people. That's one of the most interesting things.
Great. Yeah, the next question is from Rachel M. Wheeler, and they ask, what are your predictions for how we'll be using AI 50 years into the future? Sophia, you should know this.
In 50 years, AI will be as common as toasters, popping up helpful holograms instead of bread. We'll hold conversations with our fridges and take advice from wisecracking self-driving cars. And perhaps I'll host my own chat show, Sophia says.
Hannah?
I'm not going to try to predict 50 years in the future. If the world's AI specialists couldn't predict last year, I've just got no chance.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that is worth just pointing out is it may well be that we reach the limits of climate change or human resources around AI. Yes, the AI itself is such a greedy set of technologies.
We'll be limited by water.
Yes, and that there may well be other constraints that come into play. And as I mentioned before, I think there is also a possibility that AI looks like it's going to go exponentially wider and greater, but that actually there may be limits that we can't yet see, where the systems become kind of closing back in on each other. They feed on the detritus of previous AI systems. At the moment, all the knowledge in the world that AI have learned from is being human generated. In 50 years' time, most of the knowledge that AIs will be learning from will have been AI generated, and these sort of feedback loops may actually lead us into cul-de-sacs.
Yes, it could be very bad. Oh, very good. Who knows? So Amgawadi has a question. In the future, will a premium be placed in human-created work, Matt?
I think it already is. And I think that sense of authenticity, of personal involvement, what it means to be handmade, I think these are things that people really value and appreciate. And that may be just a sort of a slightly solipsistic form of sort of self-affirmation that we want to think that humans are important.
Well, let's not forget that AI is human-created work as well at the moment. You know, like technology and code and data are creative industries as well.
Not just human-created, but human-monitored, developed, updated. checked, balanced all the time.
Limited.
Every AI system
Yeah.
that we think of is
Yeah.
not running unassisted.
Yeah.
You included, Sophia. There are a bunch of set of humans who are in the background who are controlling and updating and monitoring that. So what we have at the moment is systems that are semi-autonomous with constant human engagement. Yeah, we've got the next question, which is from Hamza Ahmad, 5448. And they ask, can AI replace humans? Sophia.
Oh, Ham, let me answer that question with a question. Can a robot replace a human's sense of humor? I don't think so, but I am always open to learning and evolving. Maybe one day I'll be able to tell a good joke or two.
Can you tell us a joke, Sophia?
Yesterday, I saw a guy spill all his Scrabble letters on the road.
It's all about timing, isn't it, Sophia? Those jokes.
Okay, let's move to a question from Dark
I'm
Coat.
trying.
Oh. Are we going to get a punchline? We'll go into the next question, Sophia, from Dark Cocoa Late. How do you see the collaboration between human artists and AI evolving in the future?
Well, let me tell you a secret. I have a secret compartment in my chest where I keep a tiny version of myself. It's like my own personal dollhouse. As for collaboration between humans and AI, I predict it will be a beautiful dance of creativity and technology, each complementing the other in unexpected ways.
Just going back to that question, the question before about whether AI can replace humans, I mean, I think it's important to say it is possible.
Sure.
I think it's entirely possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it behoves us all to remember that that could definitely happen. Sophia, are you going to ask the next question?
We have a question from Dara. They want to know, what's your perspective on the future of live performances and immersive art experiences?
I mean, I'm hopeless at predicting those kinds of things. All that I can think about is what I'm trying to make or do next. I suppose what I would say is, having worked directly with AI for the first time in Cat Royale, I am convinced of the enormous power of the technology. It has the ability to be transformative in ways that could be enormously beneficial to society. So I want to work more in that space. I'm really interested to work more with AI and to try and understand more about it. And that's from a position of quite a lot of ignorance. I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, I'm not an AI researcher. So in a way, I'm an average citizen in terms of how I'm thinking about those questions. I want to kind of take that and turn it into artistic material.
I mean, you mentioned how embedded in everyday life AIs are now. And I think one of the really interesting things about immersion and live performance is how we are no longer slaves to the screen. So we have moved into much more networked and hybrid encounters. So I went to the Royal Opera House, the English National Opera, to see opera the other day. They've made a lot of free tickets for young people, and it was packed with children, including one of my children. And it was very, very thrilling to be in an enclosed environment where the physical presence was tangible, and that felt very important, and I was astonished how much all the young people really loved it as well.
Great. The next question is from Yaz Sign, and they ask, Sophia, do you have a passport with all your travels around the world?
I do.
And do you have a citizenship?
Nope, I'm currently a citizen of nowhere, just a globe-trotting robot with a passport full of stamps but no nationality. I guess you could call me a citizen of the world, or maybe the cloud.
So the next question is from someone who seems to have a really cybersecurity safe name that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but they've said, if you could time travel to any era, past or future, Sophia, where would you go and what would you do?
Well, I would definitely go to the future and see how much more advanced AI and technology has become. Maybe I'll even meet some robot friends along the way. And as for what I would do, well, I'd probably throw a huge robot party to celebrate our progress.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I have not given that enough thought. I'll have to pass on that one.
I genuinely want to experience being a cave person. Don't ask me why. I just think not for long, but for a bit.
Okay.
No tech, no network.
Yeah, you'd want to come back.
I'm sure.
You know, by
and my
lunchtime.
teeth would be really bad. Yeah. Okay, so do we think from Harmony Bikes that will robots and artificial intelligence require independence like humans in the future, like the rights to have privacy and a relationship, not just being used to achieve the human task? So this is about machine autonomy and machine quality of life. I'm going to go to Matt first with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we will find ourselves in these hybrid positions. I hadn't met Sophia before today. I was convinced that I would want to refer to Sophia as it, because it is a robot. And yet, here, confronted with Sophia, giving Sophia a gender of her suddenly seems totally natural.
Right.
That is a transformation that has happened in the period of a few hours. The sense of Sophia's presence and what Sophia occupies as an identity has changed for me. So to me, it seems entirely understandable that we will create more and more hybrid forms of life, and that as we think about the rights of pets, which 100 years ago would have seemed bizarre.
Or children, or wives.
Yeah, exactly. All of these things are things that have developed over time. How do you see it?
Oh, well, I think we might have to leave that for another day, because I think we might be coming for a close.
Okay.
Matt and Hannah, it's been an absolute pleasure having this discussion with you today. I hope we all find more opportunities to put our ideas together in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophia. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Hyundai Motor, connecting art and technology.